Between what's behind me and what I have on order, I have over 15 custom Venom statues. Some people argue this is the best one. So I figured it's time to put them on the review table and find out. This is the Extreme Channel. This is Mr. X. This is Venom. Well, a custom Venom. So this is officially a custom 1/4 scale Venom statue. Custom means it was a private unlicensed commission. They only made 40 of these, and I actually bought this a few years ago secondhand. So I wasn't in on the original run, but I bought it from a character in Mortal Kombat. Some of you will get that. And this guy fetches a pretty hefty price tag on the second-hand market. We'll talk more about that in value. Today we're going to look at him in depth. We're going to talk about the concept, the paint. We're going to do some close-up videos, some close-up pictures. And some people may say, I'm a Venom statue connoisseur. I think Venom's an awesome line to collect. There's quite a few other collectors out there that have giant Venom collections just like myself. A while ago, I actually did a video on my favorite Venom statues that I own. You can actually check it out right here. I plan to redo that video in about 6 months because there will be about 10 new Venom statues that have been added to the collection. I can't remember where I ranked this guy, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty high because he is pretty phenomenal. While he shares a lot of traits of some of those other Venom statues, he's kind of the complete package, which is what we'll talk about in the review today. But before we do that, check out this giveaway we're doing. We are going to hit 20,000 subscribers in 2020. To do that, we're giving away a statue every 2,500 subs. At 15,000 subs, the winner will get to choose between these two PCS Mortal Kombat statues. Make sure that you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Then stay tuned towards the end of this video to find out how to enter. First thing we're going to check out with this guy is concept. Normally with Venom statues, you have two different things that could possibly be going on. First thing is, you look at the Venom creature himself. Some of them are more of a humanoid Venom, where he has a lot more human features, or you have some that are more of a creature-esque Venom. We'll come back to that. The other is the base. You typically do something either up high or in a sewer. What's interesting about this piece is I think it's a combination of all the worlds together. Let's take a look. The base here, you have a lot of water stuff going on, but it's the top of a water tower. So initially, when someone sees this from afar, they kind of think sewer. However, it's not. It has a museum black sub-base on the bottom, but then he's on top of this water tower. I believe that's what it's supposed to be, and he's absolutely crushing it. And the scale isn't entirely accurate on the water tower. We'll talk about this, but you have water flowing all over the place. It's around the sides of it. It's busting out the middle. There's a newspaper you can actually see about Spider-Man. As you move up, you see the word Maniac on the side of the water tower. This is actually called the Maniac Venom. And he is on top of it in a crouching pose, very vicious. He has very enlarged features like his hands, his feet. He's crushing the water tower. Depending on the switch outs, he may have defeated Spider-Man. You have a couple different portrait and arm options. And he just looks very grotesque. There is a little bit of a humanoid feature in him, but I would say he's more of that creature-esque type Venom. And he's just really cool. I think it captures Venom, a lot of the different things, it kind of melds them together. Where if you were to only have one Venom statue in your collection, I think this is a fantastic choice for a lot of those reasons we just discussed. Really a lot different going on here, and I like the concept a lot. Some of the design stuff, like I talked about, the water tower actually looks really small, or Venom is huge, which with Spider-Man's mask, I don't think that's the case, but that's more of a design thing. But I like how grotesque it shows Venom. I like the fact that it does show him up high. It shows the water effect, so you kind of think of a sewer a little bit, even though he's not in the sewer. So I think the concept's a 4 out of 5 on this piece. It just captures what you actually want out of a Venom. Some of the stuff we're going to talk about in Paint and Sculpt about his symbiote suit and how it's kind of moving a little bit. But before we get into that, let's talk about the design of this piece, where I think this is where there's a lot of flaws, and not for just some of the reasons I mentioned. But before we do that, here's some switch out options. So here you have the head, the portrait, where his teeth are really jagged all over the place. He has his tongue out. And this is actually not my favorite portrait. I actually prefer more of this Bagley portrait right here without the tongue. He has a little bit of drool. His teeth are more lined up like he went to the orthodontist. On his right arm, there's one where he's holding Spider-Man's mask. The other one I left in the box, I believe his hand is just kind of like this. But some of the design opportunities you have here, because of the switch outs, there's some nasty seam lines. Check out the portrait right here. This is not as bad. Anytime you have Venom in a switch out portrait, you are going to have seam lines. The arm, in my opinion, is decently bad. There should have been a better way to do this.
That's what she said.
The water effect on the base doesn't hold in very well. This one actually, I'm moving it very slow because this falls out all the time. I think some of the water effect did arrive broken. I can't remember because it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, it's right back here. So I left that in the box as well because it's the back of the statue, so not really a big deal. This does have a light up feature too. Mine only actually flashes, and I believe it arrived this way. That's why I've never used it, so I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I never use that. But let's get dimensions on him really quick. Now with this wave, one of my waves is broken off, remember. The widest point is probably about 19 inches, and again, that's up here to down here, kind of complicated. How tall he goes is probably his right shoulder blade here, is just under 20 inches, and then depth with the water effect is about 21 inches or so. Actually, that empty cube back there, that's where I actually put him, and he fits really well right in the middle. And if you're interested in what those cubes are, check out this video right here. I've done a whole video on statue display options. Then the last issue, I think this water tower is incredibly underscaled. So you figure Venom is not underscaled because Spider-Man's mask is kind of accurate with Venom himself right here. But the water tower, and it is a water tower because you see a little ladder right here, is incredibly too small. So I think that's a huge miss, but it's nothing I can't get over. So I think a lot of design issues with this piece, and for that reason, I honestly have to give it a 2 out of 5 on the design. I think it wasn't well thought out. Paint and sculpt are very good on it. And what's interesting to me is I've never taken an in-depth review of this piece or an in-depth look since I opened him 2 or 3 years ago. I'm really questioning, is he the best Venom and worth the price tag he goes for? Maybe paint and sculpt will answer that. Let's take a look. So as we go in, let's look at the portraits first. Here's kind of that Bagley without the tongue. Like I said, teeth are kind of very symmetrical, almost like he takes care of them well. His eyes are a little bit different. You see that right there? There is no blue coloring in the eyes, which you typically see in a Venom, and you don't see a lot of the symbiote suit actually moving on either of the portraits. Some good texture on the tongue. No gross or slimy effect. They do have the drool effect on this tongue right here though, and then the teeth are more like a shark's teeth with rows behind them, a little bit bloodier. This is kind of the more creature-esque, grotesque Venom with the gum line ripping apart there, the eyes a little bit misshapen. Then Venom himself, you don't see a lot of blue highlights. There do appear to be some depending on the lighting. The spider symbol is protruded here. Sometimes it's indented, sometimes it's flush, it's protruded. You see the symbiote suit kind of moving all over him, kind of giving it that live effect. The anatomy is fantastic. I think they did a great job with the anatomy, with the exception of some of the size of like his hands or his feet are gigantic, overemphasized. And what's interesting on the paint, the color of the symbiote that's going onto the water tower is a totally different black color. I'm not sure if I'm digging that. I wonder how calculated the mess of the symbiote suit is. Sometimes I really like it, sometimes I don't. This almost looks like muscle fiber texture right there. If you're wondering what muscle fiber texture is, it's just a word I just made up. Check out his hands. I do like these really long fingernails. With Venom, sometimes the fingernails are part of the suit, sometimes they're white, sometimes they're black. This is something different I've actually never seen before. Kind of this gray color mixed in there. The water tower has this rust effect all over it that does look pretty good. There's the Maniac spray painted on it like we talked about. It's almost too much though. I think they did concentrate it around where the holes are, which is, so it was calculated. The water effect is done really nice, other than the fact it's broken off in some pieces. I like the colors of that, the flow of it on the bottom, on the black base. There's the paper about Spider-Man from Daily Bugle. I like that they tied it back into Spider-Man as well. What I really like about Venom is how he came out as, you know, another Spider-Man villain, because there's about 50 of them, and then he really became his own. Lethal Protector was a really big comic for me growing up that got me into Venom. I was so excited when that came out, and ended up going down, you know, the Madness and all the different series that came out when I was younger. So really what's interesting is when you look at it from afar, I think it's fantastic, but up close it just doesn't offer some of the microfine detail and great paint job that some of the competitors nowadays do. Granted, it is an older piece. Like how the water effect is spurting out of the tower. That looks cool. So definitely some opportunity they missed in the paint and the sculpt of this piece. So I think paint and sculpt does answer that. With the paint, I like the rust, I like the water effect. I think they did a good job with Venom. They could have added a little bit more blue, I think. It almost looks like there's some subtle blue, but the lighting in here is very bad. But he's more all black, which you typically don't see. So I think the paint, at best, it's a 3 out of 5. Really surprised that it wasn't higher. I think it's more the concept of this piece. And the sculpt, very similar to the paint. I like what they did with the anatomy of him, how the suit's alive. It would almost be a 4, but I think I still land on a 3 out of 5 for the sculpt as well. Now I do have to keep in mind this is an older piece. I'm not sure how old it is. So we're not going to rate the value, but to give you kind of an idea, I'm not sure what the original price was on this, but I would speculate it was probably between $800 and $1,200 plus a couple $100 shipping. Right now, the cheapest you really see him go for is, if you're lucky, you can probably get him for about $1,600, but he's usually around $2,000 is kind of the ongoing price for him right now. Obviously mine has issues, so it probably should be less. I think I paid around $2,000 if I recall correctly. And nowadays you have a lot more Venom statues, not just with the custom ones, but licensed companies are coming out with some fantastic Venoms as well. So overall, does he have the X factor? You know, I think a lot of things tie into the X factor. It's not a cumulative score. It's kind of a, does this turn your head? Does this draw your attention? I think he does for a number of reasons, but he's definitely not an X statue. I think we're kind of pushing it to give him a 4 out of 5, but now that he's in front of me, you know, I'm going to give him a 3 out of 5. Some of that scaling issues, he's just not as impressive to me as he used to be anymore, and it could be because the competition has kind of raised that bar. And I think a lot of people will disagree with me, but if you're one that disagrees with me, that's kind of what my ratings are. They're my subjective opinion. I do have some calculated objective stuff to it. That's the cool thing about art, is we're allowed to disagree and have different opinions. If we all had the same opinion, it'd be pretty boring. So go ahead and throw in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What are your thoughts on this now that you've seen him up close? He's been out for a while, so surely there's some other videos out there on him. But if you comment below, that'll actually help you enter you into the contest to win that statue. To win one of these Mortal Kombat statues, all you have to do is comment on a video. At 15,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick a random video and pick a random comment. That person will win the prize. They can choose between these two pieces. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hey guys, if you want to see those upcoming Venom statues to the collection, make sure to hit that Mr. X logo and that bell notification. In the meantime, check out some of these other custom statues. We drop content every day at 4 p.m. Eastern. Otherwise, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.